Yo, what's poppin'? It's Tommathan, and we have the LA Valiant season review, who, despite finishing 7 out of 7 last in APAC, had a pretty interesting season. So, looking at their record, 7-17 with a minus 27 map differential and 7 points. And that's a lot of sevens, but none of them were lucky for the Valiant, I guess. Looking directly above them at the Hunters and the Charge, who finished 5th and 6th, or 6th and 5th, respectively, if you want to order it like that. Chengdu had a 9 and 15 record. Charge also had a 9 and 15 record, but they did have an extra point from the Summer Showdown. So pretty competitive overall compared to, bottom of NA where you have Paris, who it's like it's a wash. With the Valiant, they show up and you're like, what's going to happen? You look right off the bat, they had map fives against Seoul, Shanghai, and Spark. Those were the top three teams in the kickoff clash in APAC. And they straight up took them to map five. Like, you didn't know what you were going to get with the Valiant. It's just that more often than not, the scales were tipped against them. So the roster, which is an extremely large roster for a team that's on a budget, you have Dia, Innovation, Becky, and EasyHan as DPS, with Hacker thinking he's on the team at the back with a little Apex Legends controller in his hand because he's so fraudulent. He's just not. No, no. People say that he was on the team just so they could use his facilities or something. I don't know the hacker lore. I don't know what's truth and what's not, because there's a lot of stuff about the Valiant where it's like people just say things. They're just like, yeah, No Hill was paying out of his pocket money to get Marvel on the team. That wasn't true in the end. I don't think. Again, I can never be 100% sure. So much rumors flying around. But yeah, Hacker's not on this team. But still, 4 DPS is a lot for a team that was on a budget. You have two tanks being Sawson and Marvel, but for the kickoff clash, it was just Sawson before Marvel came over from Boston. And then as supports, you have Lengza and Molly in the end, but it was coldest in Lengza until Molly came over from the Charge. Also, I think mid kickoff clash, I think that was. I'm not entirely sure, but coldest wasn't playing for very long. The coaching staff being Haruhi in the end as the only coach, but at the beginning there was Wu Hyul, Haruhi, and No Hill as the head coach, because No Hill stepped in. He was supposed to be the big boss. No Hill season, let's go. And No Hill season had some mixed results. He felt like he got a bit too fancy sometimes, where you bring out innovation on the May, which worked sometimes, and then you'd play some weird stuff, and I don't know. I felt like he was getting too fancy with it. Playing Sawson so much whenever they had Marvel, I still don't fully agree with, but I'll talk about that once I go through their stages a bit more, probably. It's like, I don't know. And then he ended up leaving after the Summer Showdown because this was planned. He was going back to university, and the team, they knew this was happening, so that's fine. Anyway, looking at their kickoff clash, they go 1-5 with a -5 map differential, which honestly, going 1-5, having a -5 map differential is pretty good. Like, you can see, look at the map fives. 3 map fives against the 3 best teams in the region, and they couldn't capitalize on a single one. Oh, that hurts, And this is where the whole, they can't win a map 5 started, because you lose 3 in a row. It's like, what? And then you don't beat the Charge, who looked awful in the first half, right? Until they pick up their guys from their academy team. They just looked awful. The Charge do beat them in this first match. I think if this Charge match was anywhere else in the kickoff class schedule, it goes to the Valiant, 100%. It was definitely nerves. It was like, this is a very, very fresh rookie roster, right? Charge had a lot of experience. That's the only thing they had over the Valiant, and this is the only time when it would have mattered. If this Charge match was anywhere else, legitimately, it's a win over the Charge. Would that have mattered in the long run? No. But it would have been another win that that was the Charge's only win in the first half, right? Tragic for the Valiant. But this is where, they were locked into the Zarya comp. They only had Sawson. Sawson only on the Zarya. He did play some break in the Summer Showdown, but that's not advised. And they just played the Zarya stuff. You had Dia coming in. You had an innovation on the May sometimes. Becky doing his thing on Tracer, Echo, Genji, whatever he wants. Reaper a little bit. As you can see in the stats down below, they had about equal Reaper time with most teams, but those league usage stats counts the playoffs. So without the playoffs, the Reaper stat would go much down for the league. So relative to the league, in the matches they played, they did play more Reaper, and that's part of it. And then you had EasyHan, who didn't really get to shine until Sojourn was unlocked. But yeah, this team had a lot going for them. That's not true. They didn't have a lot going for them. They had some interesting comps, some interesting pieces, and some inflexible pieces despite having a 17-man roster, is what it is. Midseason Madness comes around. You get Molly integrated properly. Marvel's here to play some Doomfist. And what a spectacular Doomfist. That first game he played, I believe it was against Philly on that Doom. He was lights out. One of the best Dooms I saw this season. One of the best Doom maps, right? But they didn't break it out as much as they could have. I don't know. I think they really could have leaned on him a bit more. But no. No Hill was like, no, we got to play Saucin on Zarya on New Queen Street. And as soon as it doesn't work, we're fucked because he can't do shit. He cannot swap. You have the most flexible tank, one of the most flexible tanks in the league in Marvel. He can do it all. We have proof he can do it all. And the least flexible tank on the same roster in Saucin, and Saucin was still getting significant playtime. I don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, Sojourn's unlocked here fully. Easy Han takes the reins from Dia, who looked pretty good on the Ashe on all that kind of stuff. Dia was looking good on the Soldier, but Easy Han steps in on the Sojourn. And honestly, he competes with players like Leave in this Countdown Cup towards the end there. That went over Chengdu. He outcompeted Leave there, 100%. He stepped in, and as the season went on, I gave him more and more respect. Same thing with Becky. Becky, absolute troll artist in the first half. In the first 3 quarters. Troll artist. He'd pop off, and then he'd int the rest of the map. Oh, fuck the table. He'd int for the rest of the map. Countdown Cup, I know I'm skipping ahead, but the compare and contrast here is insane. Becky in the Countdown Cup, he was limit testing. The entire first 3 quarters of the season, he was just limit testing. What can I get away with in Overwatch League? Turns out, once he limit tested, he was insane. Becky was genuinely phenomenal. Now, you look at his stats, he's top of everything for this team, including deaths, which is part of the troll artist stuff. But, like, goddamn, Becky was a very frustrating and fun player to watch because you'd see him go crazy. Boom, 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 boom. He's going crazy, and then he ints. Right? He just ints. And you'd be like, Becky, what the fuck are you doing? You are total trolling right now. That's the biggest stuff for that. And then innovation comes in. I already talked about it. He plays the May. Kind of goes away a bit. Mostly in the first half, he was whipping it out, playing some Tracer, things like that. And Dia would not get any Sojourn gameplay. But yeah, Midseason Madness. The map 5s go away. They just straight up lose to Shanghai. They lose to Seoul. I don't know. I still think No Hill was doing too much in this stage. But don't worry. Summer Showdown comes up, and the map 5s are back. They lose 2 right away to the Philadelphia Fusion and the Guangzhou Charge. Now, this is the updated charges, the good charge, you know. They got Krong on the Junker Queen, who's not great, but they got Choice A1, you got Jimmy, you got all the guys. That was a hard-fought match. And also Summer Showdown, before I talk about these, which I should have prefaced this with, the Dia is their Junker Queen. Dawson's on the Brig. And that's the biggest thing, right? So why isn't Marvel playing Junker Queen was my thought. But Dia stepped in, he was a mechanical Junker Queen god. The knives, precision, MW2 lobbies, Dia's in them all day. He's just giving her, you know? And then Saucin on the Brig instead of Lengza, I don't get it. I don't comprehend it. I cannot tell you why that was. Saucin's Brig was not particularly good. Lengza is pretty proficient on the Brig. Brig was their most played character before this. Or in this season. Look, I can't believe that I saw that. Why? Why is Brig their most played character? How does that make sense? Legitimately, how does that make sense? Does that make any sense? How? You mean to tell me? Okay, these stats are fucky. You mean to tell me they were playing Brig 63% of the time? I'm taken aback. That makes no sense to me. What is that? Saucin was part of it for a little bit. He wasn't the whole way through the Summer Showdown, but he was enough. He was more than enough. I don't know. Wasn't great. But they were fun to watch because you had Dia doing his thing, you had Becky, Easy Han doing their thing, and they were kind of in the groove, but they were not good enough to even beat the absolutely abysmal Hangzhou Spark at this point, who straight up were awful. I think that was Spark's only win was against the Valiant. They really should have had that one. And if like Philadelphia Fusion got into that tournament at a 2-4 record. You beat Philly in that map 5. You beat Spark like every other team did. You're looking good. They also cucked Chengdu, which is great. Shout out to Valiant, always cucking Chengdu in both of their final matches of their respective stages. Cucking Chengdu is always a treat. I love seeing Chengdu losing, to be honest. Probably one of my favorite things about Owl. And the Valley just knew how to fuck him up. So then we get to the Countdown Cup. They have some map 5 bangers, but they capitalize on them. But it is too little too late, really. Because the Charge got an extra point. Chengdu have, despite having a winning record over Chengdu finds ways to steal maps away from Philly, from other teams like that. And it just wasn't enough for the Valiant. They needed to take wins away from that Charge win. That Charge win doesn't really change things. It was too little too late. You can't have 2 1-5 stages, right? You just can't. It's not affordable. And if it is affordable, like the Charge, who had an absolutely awful first 2 stages, they brought it back. You know what I mean? They revamped the roster. They had it together in the end. Valiant didn't quite get that. They were consistently competitive. Consistently, you didn't know what you were getting for the most part, except for the midseason madness, where it was just not looking great for them at the end there. You didn't know what you were getting, so they were exciting. And that's the biggest thing. Valiant were exciting in some of the wrong ways a lot of the time, in cases with Becky. But they were exciting. As for the future of this roster, none of them are there. They've completely blown up the roster. Could not tell you what's going on. They could go American. They could go West American. They could go Western. They could stay Korean Chinese, probably, I would expect, because they are still owned by a Chinese organization. So I would expect them to maybe dabble into some of Chinese contenders, maybe a Sea Wave, maybe a Night God angle. I don't know. Who knows what's going on there? Because you also have, Chengdu Hunters, Hangzhou Spark competing, maybe Shanghai now. The Chinese talent pool could be delved into a bit, which I'm excited for. I like seeing more national diversity in Owl. International diversity? I don't know what the term is. But yeah, Valiant, very interesting. I just want to highlight a few little team usage things before I head out with this video. Obviously, I already talked about Brig having a 63% usage, which is unreal to me. How does Brig have 63 and Lucio have 49? That doesn't make sense, right? Like, that surely can't be correct. That would imply they were playing Brig Lucio. They were playing Brig Lucio. I do remember the Brig Lucio comps now. This is what I mean when No Hill gets a little too creative. Why are we running Brig Lucio? It doesn't make sense. It was like Brig Lucio, Zarya May bullshit. Like, he's gone beyond. He completely lost the plot somewhere. Somewhere he lost the plot. But yeah. Then you get a lot of Zarya compared to everyone else because Sasson, less Sojourn. I don't entirely know why you have less Sojourn. Dia probably got some playtime in Season Madness, and that probably does it, I guess. Becky on the Tracer, you get significantly less Genji because Becky likes to play the Echo. I like that. That's the biggest stuff. A bit more somber gameplay. So a bit more Ashe than normal. The Reaper I already talked about. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, LA Valiant, interesting team. Let me know your thoughts on the Valiant. What are they going to do? How did you think their season was? Exciting? What was your favorite part of the Valiant? I was thinking Becky for sure. My love-hate relationship with Becky, really something special, I think. Really something special. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a good one, and deuces.